Welcome back to your favorite sports podcast, The Lounatics. I'm your host, Tyler, along with my good friend and co-host, John. We also have a good friend of ours, you'd say completing the three amigos or three musketeers from college, Carey, here joining us finally after some time running this podcast. I don't know how to best introduce Carey other than if you think John and I together are bad, things are about to get real out of hand.
You know, the thing about having Carey on here is that I think everyone that knew us in college thought that Carey was going to keep you and I under control and like be a good example, and they didn't realize that that was the opposite of what actually happened in our lives.
I'm actually the bad influence.
Carey was the instigator and just
exactly that.
It's like, I don't know if I should have those three more drinks and jump off the balcony. And Carey's like, don't worry, I'm sober. I'll drive you home.
I'll drive you to the hospital. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Do it. You should totally do it. What's the worst that could happen?
You know, I tend to not ask that anymore now that I'm a parent. Because I don't want to know the answer.
You know, Carey has more sons than you do. I think it could always be worse.
Yeah. He also has more sons than I do. I mean, which means, you know, if something bad happens to one of them, he's got better odds. You know, he's still got multiple more. I mean, I have less chances that I can play with here. And really, John, you have the least amount of chances.
I have, yeah, right. I have to get this right like the one time. So I have no backup plans.
Don't screw it up.
So Carey is a avid Cardinals and Blues fan. Has always been one as long as I've known him. It's always fun to hear all of the fun things that Carey has to say and the takes that he has when we can get them out of him. Apparently, raising a very large family takes a lot of time, so he doesn't quite get in with our nonsense as much as he used to, but still used to run a fantasy baseball league semi-recently, actually. So I remember that. That was a good time.
The smashing good time.
Tyler is supposed to ask what we're drinking tonight, and I have a special cup, so I'm going to make him ask this question.
I will ask the question. So, yeah, in most episodes, we always ask, what's your beverage of choice while you're drinking tonight? For me, tonight, I'm going with the Weller Green Label. Nothing new because I've pretty much just alternated between that and the Maker's Mark until I finish one of those bottles and open something new. What do you got, John?
Oh, I'm just drinking water tonight, but I just wanted to let you guys know that on Father's Day last year, there was a vote for number one dad, and I won. You guys lost. They gave me this cup, so I'm sorry that it sucks to suck. So,
did they sent that to the wrong address?
We can continue with regular scheduled programming. No. They gave me the certificate, had my name on it.
Yeah, it's funny because that was actually the consolation prize because Carey and I each got $1,000 gift certificates. So I don't know what you did wrong.
Maybe. Carey, are you drinking anything tonight? Water, probably, if I know you.
Just water.
If you have anything.
Just water. Yeah. If we were in the morning, I could get my coffee cup that says number one dad that came with my $1,000 gift certificate, but you know, it's the nighttime, so I'm drinking water, so.
But that's smart. You do have to go to bed after this.
Yeah. The cup that came with the gift certificate was actually a really nice porcelain cup. So yeah, you wouldn't just carry it around and drink water out of it like you would some, you know, knockoff consolation cup that you have. But
it's a hydro jug, man. That shit's nice. This is what all the basic girls at the hospital drink out of now.
Is that the current cup? I thought it was Stanley last I knew, so I'm way off.
Those are competing. We're not a cup podcast, but yes, there's cup wars at the hospital.
Yeah,
the cool moms
there's a lot of
Stanleys.
videos about cups on the internet, and I tend to try to stay away from them.
Yes, smart. But what we were actually here to talk about is to talk baseball. specifically, of course, our St. Louis Cardinals. And I have to tell you guys a funny story. So my good friend Scott texts me like every day during the game. And normally it's complaining about something that Ali has done. And today he was complaining about Nolan Gorman being in the lineup again and, just running him out there every day when he's, clearly not seeing the ball well. And he just needs like a day off to like regroup or reset. And he sent that at the beginning of the at-bat that had the grand slam that Gorman hit tonight. So that went really well.
Shout out to you, Scott, because he's one of our few regular listeners. And
for the baseball content, he skips everything else.
Yeah, I did hear that he thought the last episode that we recorded was one of our best. I really honestly think it has to do with the cast that we had for the last episode. We just had a solid team there.
For sure. I am not the talent. I am the producer. If you remember back to the beginning of this, I am not the talent, but Carey, just so you know, Tyler's only on this because I needed someone who was like good looking to like draw people in from the thumbnail. So the content that's being produced, just absolute trash. Got the right guy. Right. Exactly.
It's more than we can say for the Cardinals in a lot of regards. So Carey, I'm curious to your thoughts. If you were to grade John Mozeliak on how for what he's done and how the Cardinals performed this year, what letter grade would you give him? Take into account that plus and minuses, this is weighted like Stillcop, so that will affect his GPA if you give him a minus.
I'm gonna go B. But you never know, he may
That's
still
awfully optimistic. Why a B?
Well, the off-season moves have seemed to work out. The pitchings look pretty good. Still need another pitcher, but compared, I thought they were going to get nothing from them, and they are in a playoff spot and probably will make the playoffs. So, all things considered, at the beginning of the year, thinking they were going to be out of the playoffs and trash again, I'll give them a B.
We're not trash. We're now recycling, is what I'm hearing.
That's a nice term. That's a nice
really
term.
Got to kick it up a notch,
Yeah. I will say, as far as like being in that playoff spot, it was just a few weeks ago where they were like, and it's not still that close, but a few weeks ago, there was almost the entire NL was within 3 games of the third wild card spot. And there is beginning to get some separation. The Cubs and Nationals are both about 5 games back now. And so, I mean, I do think we're starting to see the pack separates. As long as we're still up there in those spots, or at least competing for those spots, I'm okay with that for now. As long as we get there in the end.
I think it'll really depend on what happens at the trade deadline. I mean, we'll see. Like I said, right now he's at a B. Obviously, with the trade deadline, that could go up or down. I think it kind of seems the consensus with people I talk to is it'll be boring, and you'll get the general. Oh, they added a reliever. They added Edward Mujica, who you've never heard of, instead of the big splash where
Mujica turned out to be solid for us.
Hey, he was a good move. That's
I'm
why
thinking starter-wise, you're going to get the John Lackey type.
Yeah, I could see that. Which was a good move, but just not exciting. So I think he'll make a move, and I don't know. It always seems to work out, except for last year. If they had a decent season last year, I think we'd be feeling different about it this year. But they didn't. So.
Right. I mean, and Tyler and I have talked about this a lot. I mean, if they had chosen not to sell, if they had bought, they probably could have even still ended up right at or right below 500, as opposed to as far below as they were, because they ended up 71 wins, right? That's what they got last year, I think. 72 maybe, or low 70s for sure. But I mean, when you
I try to block that out, to be honest.
Right.
After the All-Star break,
so
it's
much
just
talent
nothing
at the deadline that Yeah, nothing after that, just complete blackout. I was drunk the whole time, 3 months. So
I can vouch
obviously the pitching is the concern we have. Do you think we're going to add pitching at the deadline?
I would say so. I think they will. I think they're good enough to add something. I don't think they're going to get the big splash though. I think it's going to be a reliever, maybe a starter, but probably not a starter. If it is, it's somebody you've never heard of. But yeah, I think they'll add.
I tend to think that it's going to be, I agree with you, it's going to be a reliever. I think the biggest pieces to that, right, is you have Palante, you've got a couple of young guys that can potentially come up and make spot starts and cover that fifth rotation spot. But if we keep beating our top three relievers into the ground out of the bullpen,
Amen.
We're not going to have our top three relievers in September.
Right. Right. I mean, that's kind of the thing. And I know we've talked a lot about that lately too, is that, those three guys were just really blowing through. I mean, granted, I know that we thought that we'd have Middleton as well. Right. And clearly that has not panned out the way we wanted to. But I mean, I think Liberatore looked pretty good out of the pen, although he's kind of in that gray area for the fifth starter. Palante's in that gray area. They've got to figure that out though. Like if you get a solid, definite fifth starter, then you can start using some of those guys more in the pen where they've been effective in the past, and that allows you to rest Helsley and Kittredge and Romero a little bit more. Because I mean, I'm really worried we're going to blow out their arms after the break.
Kittredge pitches every day. It's incredible.
Just about. Well, and that's the other thing too, is we're not, all these games we're winning are very close games. Tyler and I talked about the run differential a while back, right? Because the Cardinals have like a -40 run differential. And I went back and I looked at the scores, and essentially the Cardinals have lost like 12 or 13 games by at least 5 runs. And they've only won like 2 or 3 games by at least 5 runs. And so like that's where all the run differential is coming from, is because we get blown out and yet we're not blowing anyone out.
Look at the weekend series. It's a prime example.
I messaged you, John. Yeah, I messaged you, John, on about adjusted run differential, and I said to remind me to bring it up. And I've had it sitting in my head. And I have not done the math yet, and I'm probably going to do the math and put it together in like a post when I finish getting through it, because it shouldn't take that long, other than it'll be a pain in the ass to do. I'm probably just going to do it for the Central. But if you take a run differential and you maximize and minimize the run differential that you can gain or lose from any one game to 4 runs, and then I think you have a much better idea, because it takes out the blowouts of those 5+ run blowouts that where teams, after that, it doesn't matter, right? There's not a big difference. And I think you get a better feel for how those teams are actually performing. And I'd be intrigued to see what an adjusted run differential would look like for like the Central Division, which is what I'm planning on doing up here shortly. And seeing, okay, well, how does the adjusted run differential versus the normal run differential check out versus the standings and where the teams are?
I look forward to seeing that, because I have not paid attention to the individual results of the other Central teams. I just kind of like the scores. I just kind of look to see like, okay, who won today, who lost, that sort of thing. So I'd be very interested in that.
I would think the Cardinals would probably be towards the top of that.
Probably.
I mean, they're second in the division, so I would hope that an adjusted run differential would give you a better feel for where the standings actually are, because if you look at run differential, it can be all over the place for a lot of teams. I mean, we had 2 teams with negative run differential last year make the playoffs. Well, one of those was Miami, and they were playing how many games against the Phillies and Braves? Yeah, they probably got blown out a few times. So it's hard to put a lot of stock in that, because you know who the other team that had negative run differential in the National League that made the playoffs was last year?
Diamondbacks.
Enlighten us.
The Diamondbacks.
That makes sense.
And they didn't do much in the playoffs, so
Nothing really at all.
But again, they played in a division with juggernaut, in this case, the Dodgers. You know they took some beatings and some blowout losses. And so I think and I'd be intrigued to see what would come out of like an adjusted run differential for those types of teams as to where they actually would land if you did something like that. Again, don't have time to go back into last year yet. But I think it would give you a better picture, and it's something that I'm intrigued to do just to see how it actually plays out.
You should definitely do that. Let me ask you this, Carey. So we've actually, after our win tonight, we've actually kind of gained some separation in the Central from the remaining teams. But do you think it's possible that we can catch the Brewers? We're 5.5 games out, a little bit over halfway through the season. What do you think?
I think they can. I don't think they will, but I think they can. I don't know how the Brewers are doing what they're doing.
Fair.
So I think they are going to come back a little bit, but I don't know that we're going to go forwards. So I think we can, but I don't think they will. Every time they go 2 forwards, they go back 1. So I don't think we'll get there.
Yeah, and have we even beaten the Brewers yet this year?
We've beat them
call.
once out of 7 games.
Right.
Name 3 Brewers players.
Yeah, that's going to have a huge impact.
Can you name 3 Brewers players? I can't. I can name 2.
What's his name? Devin
Contreras, William Contreras.
William Contreras, yeah. And then what's his name? Devin Williams? Is that his name? The guy from St. Louis who plays for the Brewers?
Mm-hmm. That sounds right. I think it's Devin Williams. Who's their shortstop? I know their shortstop.
It was Adames. Is it still Adames?
Yeah, I think it's Willie Adames. He's still on the team.
Gold Star goes to.
I mean, there's 3.
Yelly still plays, right?
Yelich is still out there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought he was still in Milwaukee. I'm cheating right now.
Not good anymore, but
name a pitcher.
Rhys Hoskins. I didn't know Rhys Hoskins played for Milwaukee now. I mean, I did name a pitcher. Technically speaking, I named a pitcher.
Okay, fair enough.
For the record.
Fair enough.
So we were outscored 26-10. No. Yeah, 26-10 in the last 4-game series against the Brewers. We were negative 16 run differential in that series. Which sounds bad until you realize we also had the 3-game series before that. We were outscored 18-6.
In the win in that series, what was the score?
So we're looking at we're at minus 28 run differential,
just from the Brewers.
Just from the Brewers.
We do have 6 games left against them, so I mean, if we sweep them, it ends up,
we're 500 against them for the year.
Yeah. Well, no, we would. Yeah.
Or no,
right? 6.
No. We'd be
win.
7-6. We'd have a winning record.
Yeah, we'd have a winning record. All we got to do is sweep them. Yeah, that's fine. We can do that.
I mean, if history's shown us anything, it's shown us that we can do that for sure.
Yeah. And if we sweep them, we're back in the NL Central lead. If we, get the exact same results in all the other games.
We have picked up games on them since we were 9 games below 500. But, I mean, we've picked up games on everyone since then.
Their pitching is really not that great this year. The Brewers. They've got a handful of guys in the threes that are starters, but no one like really lighting it up. What's their batting look like?
Well, and they traded their ace to the Orioles, and they're still doing this. Oh, and they gave their manager to the Cubs. I mean, like, it doesn't make sense. Their highest paid player, Yelich, realistically should probably be is probably on the bench 80% of the time. He's not really on the bench.
Yeah,
I'm over exaggerating, but
right. I mean, he's played in 59 games. He has 200 something ABs. Like,
he's not the MVP.
But I don't know. 82. Contreras has played in 82 games. No, that's about 75% of the games they've played. You're not wrong. He's only appeared in 75% of the games, so you've got a good point. And he's still hitting pretty well, actually. Wow. He's got a 323 average, 493 slug, 399 OBP, so that's like a 900 OPS. He's leading the team.
I mean, he'd be leading our team by a wide margin, so yeah. That's hard to do. All right. So, Carey, I really wanted your thoughts on this, and so I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. Where do you see Tommy Edman and Donnie Baseball playing, like, positionally, when Tommy Edman and Lars Nootbaar come back healthy? Like, what does the lineup look like from your perspective?
I don't think Tommy Edman comes back this year. I'll start with that and then answer the question. I think Donovan has to play every day.
Oh.
So Donovan is wherever you need him. Most likely, probably on the infield or a corner outfield. I mean, obviously he's not playing center field. Edman, if he comes back, I think they'll probably stick him in center and let him play there as long as he can, as long as he hits okay. And Nootbaar will be at a corner, and unless Gorman gets going, I think he'll be the odd man out. So probably Donovan at second, Newt on a corner, and Edman in center. But they'll mix it up every day with Burleson and to get everybody in there. But if you had to pick a set lineup, I think that's what it'd be. But like I said, I don't think Edman's coming back. I mean, he was supposed to be. They didn't tell you about the surgery. So he's supposed to be back for spring training, and he's still not ready to play. And it's the All-Star break.
He was taking batting practice and fielding and rolled his ankle. But Mozeliak was on the record saying in the last week, after he had rolled his ankle, that they expect Edman back by the All-Star break.
Kitty Wu had an article today saying that his rehab assignment could start as early as Friday. Now that's, he hasn't, half the season is gone and he hasn't played, right? So like that's going to be probably a pretty extended rehab assignment, and a lot can happen before you make it back to the majors after this. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think you can take Donnie out. The good thing about Donnie is you can just line him up everywhere, right? So like I'm more worried about what you do with Burleson than I am what you do with Donnie. And I don't think this is a take I know I've said before, but I think Burleson has a case to be your everyday first baseman, and Goldie goes to the bench. And like Goldie's hit better lately, but not better than Burleson. So
So, can you name the 6 players that have an OPS over 700 on the team?
Are you asking me or are you asking Carey?
We'll start with Carey. Let's see what Carey's got. You got 6 of them, Carey.
I'm kind of surprised by that.
That's 4. You're missing 2. One's real obvious. The other one less obvious.
That would be 6. That'd be 6, not 7.
Did I say 7? I
You
said
did.
6 that were over 700 is what I meant to say. So if I may have misspoken and said 7. But it's 6 that have an OPS over 700. So you have 2 more.
I know who one of the 2 is for sure.
I'll recap for you. You've said Contreras, Burley, Donovan, and Herrera are the 4 you've listed.
You're missing an infielder for sure.
Mm-hmm. John, you want to help him out with the infielder?
You're missing Mason Wynn.
Yeah, Mason Wynn is up at 749. You're missing one more.
No.
Nope. Arenado's at 688. Gorman's at 680. Goldie's down at 663. Your only other person with an OPS above 700 is one that you're still waiting to come back in Lars Nootbaar.
Oh, from before? Like before he got injured?
Yeah. 742.
Well, he's probably not a qualified batter, but if you look at the list.
Technically, Contreras and Herrera are not qualified either. So
we'll round. This is not like an official math podcast. We don't care. We don't have voting rights on these types
had
of
100.
things.
You said 200 at bats earlier. Nootbaar's got 141 at bats this year.
It's reasonable.
So I'm not. Am I saying he's been around all year? No, but he gets a lot of hate. But he's just he's streaky. He's never going to be an everyday top of the lineup hitter, but he's a solid 6-7 hole guy.
Yeah, I think what's holding this team back from being truly elite right now, and I think Goldie has clearly lost some bat speed. I have reached the point that I think Arenado has lost some bat speed, and like you're not getting that back. But what's really holding this team back, other than those 2, is I think Nolan Gorman and the amount of strikeouts he has. He had a really rough few weeks this month. But he's supposed to be one of our power hitters, and he has an OPS that's less than Arenado's. It's 680. That's a problem for this team.
I mean, he leads the team in home runs still. I was ready to trade him in the offseason, but John said out of his cold, dead hands.
What I actually said was that it was the stupidest effing take I'd ever heard, were my exact words. When Tyler said that he thought Gorman would be traded before spring training began.
I said if we traded for a top pitcher, he would be the one to go.
He's mischaracterizing what he actually said. But
I still think he was our best bet to get something good. But it didn't work out that way. Jordan Walker, I don't know how he played tonight, but I think he was in the middle of like an 0 for 14 or 0 for 17 stretch down in the minors. I don't know if they played tonight or not, but it was not looking good for his development down there, which begs the question, do we have the right guys down there to help these guys fix their swing and develop better? And even if we send Gorman down, is he going to find his stroke? But I think my answer is if Edman and Nootbaar both come back, is that your opportunity to send Gorman down for a few weeks to try to get his swing right without the pressure. You send Gorman down for 2 or 3 weeks, let him get his swing right, and in the meantime, you can move Tommy Edman to second base, keep your outfield more or less the way it is, and then move Burley to being your everyday DH if you don't want. And then if Burley's still hitting the ball and Goldie's not, I agree with John. If and when Gorman is back and hitting the ball well, if he gets his bat right after a few weeks, I think Goldie becomes a bench player, and Burley being your starting first baseman makes the most sense. I didn't say they would. I said they should.
They should. Yeah. As far as Jordan Walker in Memphis this year, his slash line is 250, 304, 395. He's got a 699 OPS, 13 doubles, 2 triples, 4 home runs. That he's just got to figure it back out. I don't know if I entirely buy that they messed him up, or if he just kind of lost it and couldn't figure out how to get it back. But I mean, until the power comes back, like, he's going to be in Memphis. That's why we have him, is his power. That's why, like, it's not so that way he can play right field defensively. Like,
I think the thing that I struggle with Jordan Walker is last year, the reason he made the big league club wasn't because he was clobbering home runs. He made the big league club because he was smashing the ball off his bat and just making solid contact. But then, and he had a hit streak. And if you look at a lot of those hits, they were 110 mile an hour screamers 2 feet off the ground that were getting through. Your batting average on balls in play is always going to be higher if you're hitting the ball 110 miles an hour off the bat than it is, no matter where you're hitting the ball. It's just harder to handle. The flip side of that is when he did hit into some bad luck, their solution was to send him down and tell him, hey, you need to get better launch angle. You need to work on, where you connect with the ball. And to me, I think what I've seen a lot of analysts who've looked at him and done things, and I kind of agree, is that he's bailing out and really trying to get under the ball to get that launch angle and try to increase it. And the only way to truly change launch angle isn't really to change it, like, effectively. It's not to change how you swing, but change where you connect with the ball, right? And so if you're changing where you connect with the ball rather than how you swing the bat, you still retain that same power. You still have the bat to ball, but you maybe get out in front of it a little quicker. And I think that was the biggest thing, is the reason he was hitting a lot of ground balls is that he wasn't always recognizing the big league pitching out of the hand as quickly as he could. And that split second was putting him just behind it, where when he's making contact with the ball, he's driving it into the ground, or he's guessing and getting out in front of it and just rolling over the top a little bit more. But, I think pitch recognition was really where he needed to get better at. It wasn't necessarily that he needed to go down and try to get better launch angle and get the ball in the air more. It was, you need to make sure that you are, like, recognizing pitches. And I felt like he could have done that with the big league club last year. I go back, I think back to the Victor Scott thing, experiment that happened earlier this year too. And I still think they should have given him the Willie Mays Hayes treatment. If anybody's watched Major League, every time you hit the ball in the air, he has to do 10 push-ups. So
they want him to hit the ball in the air, though. So I guess it was the opposite. No, I see what you're saying.
For Victor Scott, I was just being funny for Victor Scott because of his speed.
For Victor Scott, I see.
For Victor Scott, when he was up here, Victor Scott, they should have given the Willie Mays Hayes treatment, and every time Victor Scott hit the ball in the air, he's got to give him 10 push-ups.
God, he'd be huge. He's bigger than Jordan, who is a big freaking guy.
Here's the thing, though. If if you're doing 10 push-ups every time you hit the ball in the air, eventually when you hit the ball in the air, it's going to leave the park. Or you're going to learn to hit the ball on the ground and use your speed. Either way, it's a win-win.
There you go.
Carey's coughing on our bullshit right now a little bit, but that's fine.
So, Carey, you don't think we're going to catch the Brewers. You do think we're going to get a wild card spot. Are you willing to bet on or guess which of the 3 wild card spots we get?
Carey's willing to bet you. Carey's willing to bet you, and he will pay your entry fee into the zoo for the next zoo trip.
There we go. You know, Tyler, we might even invite you for the next zoo trip.
Wow. Might. Yeah, no, that's fine. You do know that I was at the last one, right?
Was it the last one? I've got a few mixed up, but I do remember distinctly being at the zoo with Carey without you.
Yeah, that was at happenstance. That wasn't planned.
I'm positive. It's a big cup.
Yeah,
I can't drink all that.
John could drink all that when he was in college, but times have changed. GERD's a bitch.
Yes, it is. Also, you know, I got a rusty old liver. Not as young as I once was. Who do you think then is the third wild card team? So the other teams that are still in it: Padres, Mets, Giants, Diamondbacks. Pirates are 3.5 back of the third spot. Reds are 4 back, and then Nationals are 5 back. I love that. Screw you, New York. Fade away.
Yeah, nobody gives a shit about the Mets. They won't do anything. But I think it's going to come down. I agree. It's going to come down between one of those 8 NL West teams. And I think the team that gets it is going to be the team that has the smartest additions at the deadline, not necessarily the splashiest.
Let me ask you this. We're far enough into the year now. Do you guys think Mason Wynn's going to get Rookie of the Year?
I think it's going to go to Paul Skeens because he's getting all the media attention.
That's kind of my...
I think Mason Wynn's having the better year, though.
Right. I want to pull up Skeens' stats again, though, because I think he's had a couple of rough outings lately, but he's also had, he's still mixing them in with some really good ones. Something I wanted to check on. Stats. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Shota Imanaga is the other big one that keeps pushing, but he's had some rough starts as well.
He's technically a rookie as well, isn't he? Yeah. I will say Skeens is not... Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
So the Rookie of the Year odds, it has Paul Skeens at the favorite as -210. Jackson Merrill of the Padres at +450. Imanaga for the Cubs at +750. Joey Ortiz of the Brewers at +1,000. And Mason Wynn at +1,500.
I think Imanaga is probably out. I'm pulling up Yamamoto's stats right now. Skeens is, I do want to say about Skeens, he is not yet a qualified pitcher, but if he makes it to a qualified pitcher with the stats he has now, that's like Cy Young level good. And like that's hard to argue with that. Like he has a 2.07 ERA. Like that's a good it's a good season. Where is Yamamoto? Pitching Yamamoto. Not a bad season. He's got a 2.9 ERA so far, which is about what Imanaga's at. I think he's got like a 3.1. So, I mean, they're having good years, but not necessarily, I think, rookie of the year good.
Well, and like Joey Ortiz for the Brewers has not been good as of late. So like he's still up there, but I mean, over the last week he's hit like below 100. He's in a little bit of a rough stretch himself. And I don't remember what his WAR is at this point. I was trying to look at it. He's at 2 even. If you look at wins above replacement, like Mason wins at like 2.5 or 2.7 or something, or he may have dropped
2.7 as of tonight.
Yeah. So I mean, like if you look at the advanced metrics, Mason Wynn is there, and he's doing it on a nightly basis. I just have a hard time thinking that like somebody like Joey Ortiz is ahead of him with the way the overall game that Mason Wynn has put together in season he's put together.
Paul Skeens only has Paul Skeens only has a 2.3 WAR so far. Now that being said, he's not played nearly as much, but 9.
Oh my God. 2.3 in 9 games.
Yeah.
Woof.
So, I mean, you extrapolate that out
for a reason.
Yeah.
If he made 30 starts, I mean, you're looking looking at probably 2.5 over 10. So,
it's a 6 WAR season. That's a solid
7.
Year.
He'd be on pace if he made 30 starts for 7.5 WAR season.
Yeah.
Out of a pitcher, starting pitcher. That's unreal.
I do the quick math.
What do you mean it's not a math podcast? He said he was at 2.2 over 2.5 times 3, 7.5. Carey.
No, he's talking about me because I said you're looking at least a 6 WAR season.
6 WAR season. I just
get you now. Immediately took the easy number and didn't go any farther.
I'm over here thinking he's like coming at me, and I'm like, Carey, I did my math right this time. I don't always, but like I mathed good today.
I mathed good. Did really bad in English, but I mathed. I did all the maths. It is not. I do want to say something, though, before we wrap it up. I meant to say this at the beginning. So, Carey, I don't know if you know this, and by me saying that, I mean, I know you don't know this, but this is actually, when it's published, will be our 50th episode that we've had. So, congratulations on being the guest of honor. I mean, you have an iPhone, so I'll just text you congratulations, and the phone will do it for me. So,
you and your iPhone users. And other news, if those of you didn't notice, if you're not watching, I am wearing a Blues hockey jersey because the Blues just had their draft and free agency just opened up, which we did sign Bucci to a 6-year extension with an average annual value of $8 million to go along with our other 2 $8 million men. I'm curious on your thoughts there, Carey. Do you think we'll regret the back end of the Bucci contract?
I mean, every sport pretty much, backways the contract, right? Like the first few years are lower in terms of how much you actually spend. And then like a lot of that is back weighted and like, I'm not really articulating this the way I want. The fact is that they are worth less than what you're paying them at the end of the contract, because you're like signing them for what they can do right now. So you can try to win like now. Like every sport does that. Like, and I think we're already in that spot for Goldie for sure. And we were not expecting to be in that spot for Arenado, right? But we kind of are already for their contracts.
Yeah, I really felt like Arenado still had a year or two before we saw this decline hitting. And it definitely hit a lot faster than I had anticipated, which, yeah, it kind of sucks.
Yes. I'm about to pull up his 2023 game logs.
So you think it's
I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm just looking it up now out of my curiosity.
I'm looking up when his baby was born.
Game logs 2023.
Their first child was born in August of 2022. So last year was the first full season of him having a baby. Yeah, well, I mean, you have several kids of your own, so I mean, it's that stress, it's that being a dad thing, right? It's harder to keep track of things. You're just adding, reinforcement.
Hell, you just go watch your kids play baseball every night, and that's tiring enough.
I just try to, Monday nights, right? Monday nights is ninja nights for the little one over here, and he goes to like a ninja class where he literally just runs and swings and jumps and flips and does all the things for like an hour straight. And I'm watching him, and my whole body's just aching from watching him do this. And I'm like, oof.
Do you do that at Olympia on Manchester?
No, because Olympia, you have to be 6 or older to get in or something like that.
That's what I thought. I was wondering if it was
so we go to, there's a, no, it's Ewan, and there's a place up in Maryland Heights, like a gymnastics gym that has like a whole ninja section and ninja classes. And so that's been Ewan's outlet on Monday nights.
I know I would break my back, but I really wish that we had like a local American Ninja Warrior, so we could like all three go and like try to do this for just like kicks.
I would love for the three of us to do that.
Just dive in, not even attempt it.
No, he's going to attempt it. He's just going straight into the water.
Just going straight down.
Speaking of the NHL draft, though, do you know who didn't have a pick in the first round?
I'm going to guess that the Avalanche did not have a pick in the first round.
The Avalanche did not pick until pick 38, which follows in line with the owner's philosophy in other leagues as far as how he feels about draft picks, which I believe is something to the extent of fuck them picks. More importantly, fuck you, Stan Kroenke. And with that, Stan Kroenke, we hate you. Good night, everybody.